As I'm sure you remember by now, Sumer develops in the southern parts of Mesopotamia, this area down here where southern Iraq and Kuwait is today. And here you see a map that I've shown you before with some of the major cities of Sumer. And here another map of the same area. We're going to be talking about the Uruk period, which is the earliest period of Sumerian civilization. It's named for the city you see here in large print, Uruk. The Uruk period, roughly 3800 to 3200 BC. That's a 600-year time period, and that's a long time. That's a long time. This is a long process. You almost want to say it's a leisurely development, okay? It's not like someone snapped their fingers and all of a sudden we had a series of cities and all that kind of thing. So it is a fairly long period. And again, it's named for that city of Uruk. You already know some things about Uruk. Gilgamesh is one of the kings of Uruk, okay? And you know about Gilgamesh. There's a list of kings of Sumer called the Sumerian Kings List. How about that? The Sumerian Kings List identifies the founding king of Uruk as a man named Enmerkar. You might remember I told you the city of Uruk is mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, where it's called Erech. That's the Hebrew word for this city. The Hebrew Bible identifies the founder of Uruk as Nimrod the Hunter. If you look at Enmerkar, you see, although these both Sumerian and Hebrew are Semitic languages, they aren't Indo-European languages, but they're related in the same way that Indo-European languages are related. You see you have the N sound and the M sound and the R sound in both Enmer and Nimrod. And Kar is a Sumerian word that means the hunter. So it's quite possible that both the Sumerian Kings List and the Hebrew Bible are sharing a common memory of the founder of Uruk. It's possible. At any rate, when we look at the Uruk period, we see some things developing. We see the development of city-states. Now, we don't have a Sumerian nation. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about a nation or a country. We're talking about a series of cities, each of which runs themselves as a political unit. That's what the word state means here. We also see these cities outlined by walls. Walls that aren't big enough for everybody in the city to live in, but they mark out some kind of legal boundary. And it's interesting that in the as archaeologists dig down, you see they discover earlier stuff. And the earlier walls are not all that significant, okay? They don't seem to have served much of a defensive purpose at all. They seem to be more like a legal boundary. So apparently things that happen inside that boundary or under city laws and things that happen outside where the farms are is covered by farming laws, if that makes sense to you. It's more a legal boundary than serving any kind of defensive purposes. The walls and the significant buildings are made from clay bricks, mud bricks, okay? That's because stones had to be transported a great distance to be used to build things, and so they were very expensive. And so you have the walls and the buildings made out of mud brick, clay brick. That's why we don't see great monumental structures like we see in China or ancient Greece or Rome or Egypt, because there's only so much stuff you can build out of mud. You know, you can't build really big stuff like the Great Wall of China out of mud, okay? We do see the ziggurats, okay, as an exception to that idea of not seeing very large structures. And you know about the ziggurats from our discussion of Sumerian polytheism. What's interesting with the Uruk period is what we don't find, and that is palaces. Although we have kings identified, we don't find large palace structures and large palace areas, and that indicates to us that the kings probably aren't as strong as we might be tempted to think at first from the word king.